It's Larry Horist, and here we are again to have a group discussion on an interesting topic. And today we're going to talk about privacy, but we're going to talk about it in public. And we have some interesting guests. We have Marina Alias, who is a entrepreneur, a expert in real estate, and spent part of her career as a ballerina in Russia, born in the Ukraine.
Hi, Larry.
Hello. We have Preston with us, also an entrepreneur, also in real estate, but he's more into the bricks and mortar. He's a fellow who does building and he does renovation work. And we also have with us Joe Gilbertson. One of the rare times you'll see his face on camera because he was 12 years with the CIA. And so he hides a lot. But he was a serial entrepreneur, and he is editor of Punching Bag Post, which is one of the vehicles that brings us all to you. So we welcome Joe, we welcome Preston, we welcome Marina, and we're going to talk today about privacy. And how much do we have, how much do we deserve, and what's the future of privacy? So who wants to open up that privacy? I want to hear a bid.
Sure. I'll take that if you don't mind.
Okay.
This is an issue that I'm passionate about. There are really two parts of this. One is the government. How much should the government spy on its citizens? I would advocate, coming from that world, that I don't want my government spying on me. I was in the position of spying on other governments for my government. I don't want those techniques turned back on me. That's just not a good idea. The other part of that is corporate spying, corporate spying on citizens, and gathering information and gaining power. Information is power. So the more corporations know about me, the more power they have over me. And ultimate power is ultimate authority. So
yes.
It makes me very nervous that our privacy appears to be going away.
Marina, do you feel invaded by privacy, people invading your privacy?
I actually do. And honestly, the United States of America is a the nation that basically a lot of people move here partially because of the freedom that they're getting, and the government should continue to secure that privacy and prohibit its invasion. And California recently signed a law back in 2018. It still has a few loopholes, but what they do, and they protecting consumers from privacy. And from companies like Facebook and Google, and the information that they're trying to get into the personal information. So I think it's a good first step as far as privacy protection, what California is doing, and I think other states should mimic it. And I know it's the step-by-step process, and the law still has a lot of loopholes, and it's still in the process of being finalized, but at least it's the first step.
Preston,
well, I think, one thing that Joe mentioned on about the two problems there. One is the government and one is the private sector. We don't know what they're doing with the privacy, with all this information that they are harvesting. And what it's being used with, what can it be used for? How this stuff, we give it up freely in a lot of cases for benefits that should come with this, for instance, in banking and information sharing situations where it's absolutely necessary. But when that information is harvested and collected by somebody that's spying or pilfering that information, we don't know what the capabilities of what they can do. I've had many times where my identity had been breached, and I had to fight that battle, to secure it. Mm-hmm. The fact that it has happened more than once, if this can happen in the private sector, we have limited power. There is nothing in the private sector that the government can't do, times 10, 20. So we have no idea what's happening with this information.
Well, there's two issues with privacy. One is what you can legislate, and then what you can enforce. Because we have some of our privacy is protected, but it is almost impossible to enforce it because we see so much hacking going on, so many people's records. I mean, major companies in the IT industry who have billions of dollars to protect data
are being
are
hacked.
losing millions of subscribers' information and all their information.
Right, and it's because security is a big expense. And I think maybe the solution to that is to make it more expensive for the big companies to not protect their data than it is to lose their data and lose whatever customers they do.
And in my opinion, Apple is doing the right thing by protecting their consumers' privacy and not complying with the FBI orders to unlock phones, because what's going to happen if they ever agree to do that, it will open a back door for those hackers, which will create a tremendous privacy issue in the long run.
Yeah, I know a little bit about that, and to me that always seems like it's the tail wagging the dog when law enforcement says you have to compromise your security so that we can get in to spy on people, even though it may be bad for your customers, and opens up vulnerabilities for your customers. That's I can never see any situation where that's a good thing. I mean, the police need to abide by the culture that's there. The police should not be changing culture and changing people's technology in order to make it easier for them to
access it.
To access it. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think we as consumers, have to be wise about what we do and the choices that we make, because in some ways, many times, even as simple things as cell phones, we're giving up our information. Lord knows where it's going and who has access to it. I mentioned once my identity had been breached, but also even my bank card. I was using my bank card to get a call from the security from my bank to tell me, hey, where are you? I explain where I am. They say, yeah, we thought that because we just seen your card get used 5 times in a whole different state. So, and the way they did that, they took, they have now Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, where you don't actually need your physical card. It's just the information you put in these phones, and then you just tap these phones on the device, at checkout, and that's how you pay for these, for whatever it is that you're purchasing. So right there, technology is making it even easier for our information to be stolen. And
companies are very anxious to put out services, but they're not anxious to spend the extra amount of money
that
it takes to protect it.
Yes.
I think what's very shocking is, I recall years ago using a credit card, and you had to sign your credit card. A lot of times they would call to verify that this was your credit card. There was all kinds of things.
Yep.
Now, if I hand my credit card to you, you can go in any store, you can go online, any place, and you can use that credit card. You have the number, you have the expiration date, and you have the security number on the back. It's all on the card.
Not only that, that's, behind the screen, if you're doing it on your phone or your computer. If you take a credit card and swipe it, I believe there may be an amount, but I do know that like Visa, MasterCard, I'm not sure about Discover. However, ownership is in the hands of the beholder. So whomever has their card has the legal right to use it just because they're holding it.
Is it a legal right?
No, they can use it. The store, now they may be doing something fraudulent, but there's nothing that the store perhaps can do anything about. Furthermore, if you take a credit card, not a debit card, but a credit card, you stick it into a gas tank, some of them will ask for your zip code. Some of them don't. But if you go into a store, for instance, you swipe a credit card, if it's under a certain amount, they don't ask for ID. You don't even have to sign for it.
I see kind of there are different aspects of privacy that I think are a big problem. I mean, one is, they're stealing my information and stealing my stuff. The other, there are really 2 others. One of them is, do I have the right to prevent you from bombarding me with advertising?
Right.
I mean, I put my phone number in the wrong place about a year ago. Now I get 5 phone calls a day trying to sell me health insurance in automated calls, and I tell them all, don't call me. They always come from a different number. I mean, this is a science now of basically bombarding you with advertising that you don't need. and you don't have any way to stop it. The other thing is the credit companies are building a dossier on you. I mean, they know everything that you've bought. They know every place that you've been. I mean, if you have someone who wants to target you for other things, they can go to the credit card companies, get everything there is about you. Now, whether that's legal or not is a different question. But anybody with any means, can buy their way into. I mean, they can
tax returns.
I was with the CIA. We buy people off all the time. It's easy. You offer some technician $10,000 to give me a profile of one person. They're going to give me that profile.
Yes.
So that the fact that information exists is all in one place, even though it may be open source information that I've given up freely to various places. That's a problem to me. And I get the feeling that I should have the right to control that somehow.
Yes.
Well, I think too, when you look at things like Facebook and everything, you sign on to, you're going to use the platform. I understand we don't pay to use the platform, so they have to make money someplace. But what became, sort of shocking to me after a while is I said, okay, I'm going to give my name and my address, and okay, they're going to put it on the mailing list, so what? But then they moved into, now they cover your chats, what you talk about, what your, everything online that, and they say, oh, well, he's talking about a car. He just told a friend, a Facebook friend, he wants to buy a new car. In come all the car ads.
That's a good example of how we're being bamboozled, and they're giving this information up because they're purportedly monitoring these chats for safety reasons, in case somebody's, hey, I'm going to commit suicide. That's what it's purported as. But all of a sudden, you get, like you said, an ad. And even back to what you said, when you, albeit unwittingly, put your information somewhere, you did it directly. Well, I simply drive past places I've never been, and all of a sudden I'm getting ads from these places, establishments that's around me.
Right. And we were talking about the expectation of privacy earlier in one of our other conversations. And Facebook is so comfortable, and you're so close to your friends while you're doing those chats. You feel like you have the expectation of privacy.
Yes.
Like nobody should be intruding on your conversations, but that's not true at all. And if you read their privacy agreements, they don't promise that. But yet you feel like it should be.
When I go into a restaurant and I come out and an hour later there's a thing on my phone saying, how did you like the restaurant?
Right.
I didn't give up.
Robert Kraft, how did you like your massage?
Yeah, how'd you like Well, he has a point.
So to speak.
He feels a little bit violated. His
Just
privacy has been violated.
Bit,
What about wire fraud? Just having this real estate background, I've witnessed a lot of situations where title companies actually have a whole new policy because of a big issue of wire fraud, which is happening overseas. And it's a big issue in the United States right now.
But you look at I've often said that our anticipation of privacy is shrinking. A lot of things people held very, very private, their salary, their naked pictures or whatever.
Right.
Now the culture accepts that as not being terribly damaging to people in a lot of ways. So that kind of privacy shrunk. But when you've got critical privacy, when you're a company and you're coming out with a new invention, you want to be able to have your privacy.
Yes.
You don't want to be hacked. Now, when you look at what you're talking about, when I talk about the restaurant, they know you're there, they know you're here. And then you take that one step further, like they do in China, where they have facial recognition, and now they socially rate you by conduct. Right. This person walking down the street, his face gets recognized, and he's considered a good citizen, a mediocre citizen. This guy's a problem. They do facial recognition on millions of people. It's just,
Right.
And
you have a bad day and it could ruin the rest of your life.
Yep. So don't. Don't have bad days.
Right.
Seriously.
Facebook does that too, and I've seen that where you post a picture or you're looking at pictures, and it asks you, it suggests to you whom you're looking at.
Wow.
And they say, is this Joe?
Yeah.
If it is,
Right. Yeah.
tag them.
Facial recognition, I started with that a couple of years ago, just scared the hell out of me. I was amazed that even, in my own photos, they have facial recognition.
Yes.
And I was amazed. My son was at the time probably about 23 years old, and it recognized his picture as a 7-year-old.
Wow.
It went boom, said
Wow.
Alex.
Wow.
Well, you mentioned Facebook, and that becomes a political problem because Facebook manipulates what you see.
Yes.
I mean, they tend to censor conservative memes very heavily, and I've experienced that directly. So not only are you giving all of your private information, but they're using that and using it to shift your thought process
Right.
by showing you different things.
Yes.
So it becomes a huge propaganda machine.
That's
Frankly,
why I
which
think
is
the
scary.
law that was recently passed in California is a big first step because they protecting their consumers. The consumers have the right to vote, opt out of providing certain personal information. And they can actually sue those big companies like Google or Facebook.
But it's,
Well,
it's a constant
what they
battle.
do.
It is a constant battle because as we do one thing, then there was another way of getting around it. On my phone, for example, I get dozens of spam kind of thing on my phone, and so I put block and delete,
Right.
and then a little message comes up: you will never get a message from this phone number again.
But they
And
call you
someone
from a
else
different
calls.
phone
Another
number.
boom, the
Yeah,
same,
the
there's
same
the
company
same-
call you from a
The
different
guys
phone
next door
number.
do this. There's a machine they have a whole bunch of phone numbers and they
Right.
rotate them.
So they must have hundreds of phone numbers all lined up just to send out that thing. No
And
matter
that
how
it
many times I
creates-
block it, I get another one.
It creates a huge problem, that's quite cyclical because once you're able to access that, if you're such an entity that's going to, commit some fraud with that information, then now you have a whole crop to harvest from, because all this information is so available. So technology is so incredible right now. You can go after exactly what you want. You can find the people that you want that fit the prospects that your
Right.
nature of what you are seeking. And what they'll do sometimes, you said, like with these different phone numbers, when you get a phone call sometimes and you pick up and you say, hello, and the person on the there's two tricks to this. There may be more, but this is two tricks I know of. One of them is to hang right up.
Yeah.
And they
Well,
hang
one
up
of the
right
things-
away because they want you to call back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because that way, when you call back, they can start pitching you in that and say, well, you called us.
I think the one thing we can agree on is that this is a huge problem in the United States.
Huge.
And it's a complex problem. It's that old layers of onion on top of onion. And we're not going to resolve it today because the fact of the matter is, we could be here talking for the next 3 weeks on the subtleties of it. But what we really need to do is to focus on one thing: protect privacy wherever possible. I think that we can agree on.
Yes.
Hey?
Absolutely.
And that's kind of it for our conversation on privacy. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you soon. So there it is.